Bruce Daisley, the former Vice President for Europe at Twitter and the author of the book Fortitude, Unpicking the Myth of Resilience. Bruce Daisley, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme tonight. You worked at Twitter for several years in senior roles. The government says that it's talking to Twitter, it's talking to Facebook, it's talking to the other social media platforms about taking action over misinformation. But I don't know if you heard that clip that we played a little bit earlier of Nick Clegg, the global president of communications at Meta. He doesn't sound like a man who believes that misinformation actually fuels the kind of events that we're witnessing here.
Yeah, it was ironic, wasn't it, from Nick Clegg? Some interesting information coming from him. I think, the critical thing to point out is that since Elon Musk has bought the social media app, he's reduced the staff by about 3/4. And so while we used to have people who would spend their time, in my time there, trying to liaise with government, the Football Association, MPs, newspapers, to try and ensure that the platform was being used for good purposes, there's no resource there now. And so witness Elon Musk's tweet yesterday, his post yesterday, he's declaring civil war. I suspect this is just another illustration that the social media platform has become a plaything for the billionaire. And I'm not sure if he's really demonstrated he's concerned about consequence at all. He's reduced the size of the business by about 3/4. He's reduced it from making about $5 billion a year to making about a quarter of that now. He doesn't really seem to be too troubled about the consequence. And the danger of that is that when you've got a billionaire effectively using the whole of a democracy as his plaything, not necessarily worried about consequence, then it's really a time for government to try and work out, well, how can you make him take notice?
It's worth underscoring, Bruce Daisley, that he hasn't just cut back the staff. He's also reopened the platform to people that were banned from it, like Tommy Robinson. How much has that contributed to the spread of misinformation and almost to the sort of the imprimatur of respectability that by reopening the platform to people like Tommy Robinson, Twitter is conveying?
People following Tommy Robinson on Twitter yesterday, on X yesterday, might have seen him effectively taking a sort of a ringmaster position where he was posting about various episodes that were taking place. And you might speculate, wow, this is someone who's out and trying to observe what's happening. And it was only later in the day when the Daily Mail revealed that he was doing all of that from his sunbed in Cyprus, that we witnessed that actually he was doing this from a long distance. Anyone who saw that will have witnessed that he was deeply upset that his own welfare was going to be undermined by the press reporting it. And it's just an illustration, really, that people like Tommy Robinson aren't really concerned about the consequence of their actions. They're not concerned about being a good actor and trying to achieve some degree of calm, which is what I think all of us want right now, irrespective of what position you might take. The first thing we want to hear is calm and order, and to try and resolve the sort of the tempestuous actions that are taking place right now. He's deliberately agitating it, and the problem is that Elon Musk has interacted with Tommy Robinson in the last 72 hours. It's pretty clear he doesn't care about people who are bad actors on the platform, maybe agitating and trying to create some sort of degree of upset via using their platform. And if you've got a situation where he's not willing to take it into his hands, we've until now presumed that these platforms are going to be run with a perspective of trying to achieve a degree of order. And if that's not going to be the case, then it does beg the question, well, in a democracy, how are these platforms held to account?
Can I ask you about the Online Safety Act, which I was reading this weekend, will not see any meaningful change, any enforcement of its provisions until next year. The powers will not come into effect until January at the earliest, reported the iPaper over the weekend, prompting fears that websites will go unpunished if they allow misinformation like the incorrect Southport attacker's identity that sparked the far-right violence in the region. Why is it taking so long for an act that has been passed by Parliament to effect meaningful change? And is there not a case for the government now streamlining and fast-tracking additional moves to try and push back against misinformation, not only on X, but on all the social media platforms?
Yes, so the critical thing about the Online Safety Act, while it's the majority of it is for the protection of children, there is a provision in there that's meant to prevent agitating for racial hate or any degree of social unrest, and that can enact a provision which is up to 10% of global revenue or £18 million, whichever is greater. And so there is a provision there. Effectively, though, even if it was implemented right now, the nuance of how to implement it is pretty complicated. What specifically would you ask them to do? And I guess what you would specifically ask them to do is stop promoting posts that are designed to produce hate, stop promoting them algorithmically. So stop making these posts about certain interactions, get to the top of people's timelines. Requires a degree of personal interaction and people getting involved. The truth is, though, is that those provisions, if there was a dialogue between government and social media platforms, those provisions would be taken irrespective of whether the law is there. The situation we've got right now is that Elon Musk has pretty much demonstrated he's not willing to intervene. In fact, the opposite. He's standing on the sidelines trying to some extent, take a fight in the argument. You know, he's openly posted in support of various aspects of this. It's pretty clear that even though the current law or the forthcoming law doesn't apply to him, I think government can think about making some sort of emergency act to try and get the attention of these billionaire oligarchs.